Good evening, everyone. Hope you're having a good night. Tonight, we are diving into a few stories that show exactly how unprepared people are for the world of artificial intelligence. One of the stories, the music industry is kicking and screaming as AI music takes off. They keep insisting it's not human, so listeners should just outright reject it. But what they really mean is that their old business model is collapsing and they can't stop it. Lawyers continue using AI to look up case law and keep getting burned because they don't verify anything before filing it in court. So, this isn't an AI problem, it's a competence problem. And we have an IP lawyer sticking with the law news whose 6-year-old son accidentally committed copyright infringement using an AI tool. Instead of taking responsibility, the blame landed on AI again. This is what happens when people hand kids powerful tools with no supervision. And Ron DeSantis is now proposing an AI Bill of Rights to supposedly protect citizens from misuse, deepfakes, and data abuse. But at the core, it's another attempt to save people from their own bad decisions. So we're going to break all of this down tonight. But before we get started, be sure to click the links in the description and send us super chats if you wouldn't mind. That helps support the show. I'll be reading comments in between stories, so jump into the conversation. And if you're watching live, make sure you subscribe, like the stream, and share it with as many people as you possibly can. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first story is from Time Magazine. And if everybody can hear me all right, let me know. So this story from Time Magazine, we have the music industry is now extremely upset at the fact that AI music is taking over. I happen to be noticing a lot of music being posted on Instagram. A lot of it's probably X-rated or R-rated at the very least, but it's pretty funny. But some of it is just so good, you can't really tell if it's from AI or humans. And this Time Magazine article is titled, "It's Time to Rage Against the AI Music Machine," which is a play on words with Rage Against the Machine, from this guy, CJ Farley from Time. And he starts out in 1999. I interviewed Prince for Time Magazine, and he told me to leave my tape recorder off because he didn't trust what future technology might do with unauthorized recordings of his voice. At the time, I thought Prince was being paranoid. Recently, Xenia Monet became the first known AI-powered musical act to debut on a Billboard magazine airplay chart. I honestly didn't know this. This is very surprising to me, to say the least. Another reportedly AI-driven act, Breaking Rust, recently topped the country digital song sales chart. We don't know exactly what went into creating these AI-powered acts, but typically they are trained on the work of human musicians. The article kind of goes into this, and I do want to mention this, the training of the AI by humans, because this guy tries to make an argument that completely falls apart. He goes on to say, "I realize now that Prince wasn't paranoid, he was prescient." And so he's trying to say that Prince could tell the future about what was happening or what could potentially happen in AI. I'm not so sure about that. Maybe he was as high as he was during the time that he could predict the future, but I'm not quite sure that he knew or thought that somebody would use his voice in the future. And I mentioned this last night. Morgan Freeman is suing a lot of people because they're using his voice and have been using his voice in voiceovers and using AI to replicate his voice. This particular story and what's happening in AI right now is completely new material. It's not using people like Prince or other artists necessarily to create the music. It's completely on its own. It just happens to be AI, and the music industry still has a problem with it. And we'll go over that and explain why that is. Billboard reports that at least 6 AI or AI assisted acts have appeared on its charts in the last few months. And that figure could be higher because it is hard to tell which acts are driven by AI and how much AI they're using. That's a huge point. AI could overwhelm human artists if left unchecked. I'm not sure that's a problem. One reason some music industry managers might see AI as a convenient replacement for notoriously difficult musician personalities. Is that a problem? AI never has to go to rehab. Another excellent point. AI doesn't trash hotel rooms. AI doesn't demand to renegotiate its record deal or get in fights with paparazzi or any of the million other things a brilliant temperamental human artist might do. AI just pumps out products. What's more, a recent survey conducted by Ipsos for French music streaming service Deezer found that 97% of people polled couldn't tell if a song was created by a human or generated by AI. Now, I want to go back to the reasoning AI is it's sort of a kind of, I guess, a funny thing to say that the artists don't need to go to rehab and or trash hotel rooms, etc. But what it does, and it's not mentioned in this article, and I'm going to say it now before I continue and forget to say it, is that AI levels the playing field. And I get into this in many different stories and different industries, different sectors, things like that, because AI, as opposed to something that should be feared, should be embraced. And the reason I say that is because now someone who creates an excellent song, an amazing song, now has the opportunity to use AI from the creativity that they came up with. Why is it that the music industry gets to pick and choose who becomes famous? And so to me, it's not necessarily about the difficulties of the current artists that are on drugs and make millions of dollars and try to tell you who to vote for and, get into all of the political BS that they get into. But we want to hear about the music. We want to listen to music. And there are people out there. I mean, there are artists now on the internet that you can pay for to put on your YouTube videos. I'm not necessarily sure that they use AI, but a lot of them are a heck of a lot better than the ones that are promoted by the music industry. It's certainly a problem for human artists if AI begins to sound more like them. And it's going to, and it's only going to get better, and it's only going to get more accurate. And it's just, it's inevitable. But a potentially bigger problem may be that humans will start to sound more like AI. Music is a trend-driven industry. Artists, fans, and music executives chase after what's hot, whether it's alternative rock, K-pop, or Afrobeats. If AI music begins to dominate the charts, humans will begin to echo the machines, and there will be a downward spiral into slop. That's an opinion of this guy who is a writer and a fan of the music industry. This is a completely wrong statement. Pop music controversies are often centered around whether an artist is keeping it real or not. Beyonce had to push back against haters who didn't think she was country enough when she came out with her album Cowboy Carter. Okay. Who needs that? Who needs that controversy, and who cares about that controversy? Because she's not a cowboy. Kendrick Lamar and Drake dueled via diss tracks over whose music was authentically representing hip hop. Neither one does. People would argue that Drake is not a hip hop artist, that he was manufactured. A lot of these artists, you're going to sit there and tell me that they aren't manufactured. Tupac is completely manufactured. If you look up videos of Tupac when he was interviewed when he was 18 years old, and I won't get into it because it's certainly controversial. Tell me if he wasn't a manufactured artist as well. Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain once said that the worst crime I can think of would be to rip people off by faking it. He wrote that line in his 1994 suicide note. Now, here's another example of an artist that had all kinds of different problems and things like that, and it was like, well, the music came to an abrupt end after that, didn't it? But once again, it's only fair to allow people who can utilize AI, because it is humans behind it, to create new music that can compete and maybe excel beyond human artists. There's nothing wrong with that. In Living with Music, Ralph Ellison writes, let me go back to this. AI is the ultimate faker. If it takes over, it will undercut a core value of pop music, authenticity. Well, is it? Going back to what I just said before, is Drake authentic? Is Beyonce or Kendrick Lamar, are they authentic? I think a lot of people would argue that they're not. In Living with Music, Ralph Ellison writes that the blues is an impulse to keep the painful details and episodes of a brutal experience alive in one's aching consciousness, to finger its jagged grain and to transcend it, not by the consolation of philosophy, but by squeezing from it a near tragic, near comic lyricism. Okay, who cares? I just want to listen to music. Okay, and then if it speaks to me or whatever, that's great. But Ralph Ellison, here we are with the self-proclaimed artists and the self-proclaimed elite that think that they write things like this and that they're so brilliant that it justifies the elimination of artificial intelligence because it takes away their gravy train. And that's what this is all about. AI products don't have any life experience, brutal or otherwise, in my opinion, and likely in Ellison's. AI hasn't earned the right to sing the blues or jazz, country, rock, and hip hop. Absolutely it does. Because the person behind the AI has life experience, and when they're creating that art, they're just doing it in a different way. They may not have the talent necessarily with the voice or the instruments or whatever it may be, but they very well may have. I mean, they're creating it through AI. So to say that is completely unfair and untrue. Keeping music human. That is precisely why the recording industry needs to stop referring to AI music releases as artists. I disagree with that. It is art. It is art. This practice anthropomorphizes AI in a way that's unearned. They should be referred to not as AI artists or musicians, but as AI products. Once again, here we are using gigantically huge words to justify a hatred against AI, because what we know what this is all about is taking away their income. That's all this is. This has nothing to do with anything else other than their livelihoods being threatened. And so to say that it's not, it shouldn't be included with other artists, or it shouldn't be included with other musicians, it's just inevitable. It's going to happen. You can't fight it. Billboard has a chart for almost everything: hot dance electronic songs, hot R&B, hip hop songs, hot tropical songs, Americana folk albums. This is the other thing, how ridiculous all the genres are. AI products should be quarantined, he says, on their own chart. And then meanwhile, this article, by the way, is written by AI. That's why he's using the big words, because an M dash, which gives away the fact that it is a AI written article, is in his article, and he didn't remove it. They call it hot. They should call it hot AI products chart, away from human musicians with real lives and with real financial. That's what this is about. Real financial obligations like credit card payments, mortgages, and college loans they may have taken out to attend music school. I mean, can you make this any more obvious of what a crybaby this guy is? You know, the way I look at it is, and with everybody watching this, is that you're going to have to learn to adapt to AI. There's no other way around it. And even in the music industry, you can fight it and you can complain and you can whine about it all day long, but ultimately it's going to take over. Here's where it really gets fun. Tim Pohlman, Chief Programming Officer for the audio company iHeartMedia. This is important because iHeartMedia is a billion-dollar media company that controls what you hear, by the way. And a lot of these companies and a lot of the media, a lot of these industries have control over what it is that you listen to and what you hear. He recently sent a memo to staffers pledging that we don't play AI music that features synthetic vocalists pretending to be human. The memo said the company's research found that 96% of consumers think guaranteed human content is appealing. I don't believe that for a second. Sometimes you have to pick a side. We're on the side of humans, the memo concluded. Well, first of all, it's hard to argue if you play the music and the person who's listening on the other side doesn't know if it's human or not. So now iHeartRadio has to guarantee that it's human created. Once again, it's embarrassing to read this stuff because you know what's going to end up happening. You know the inevitability that this stuff is going to be taken over by AI. In a letter to fans, Australian singer-songwriter Nick Cave argued that creativity is meaningful because it requires effort. Even God had to take a break after doing it. Not sure what that means. AI-powered services like ChatGPT could churn out entertainment products with no experience, no effort, and no rest. Why is that relevant? Thus, their output, therefore, has no meaning, according to Cave. It doesn't matter. What does it matter? If somebody enjoys listening to it, do you really honestly think they care of your life experience putting that into it? And once again, the people creating it are still humans behind it. They have life experience. ChatGPT rejects any notions of creative struggle that our endeavors animate and nurture our lives, giving them depth and meaning, he wrote. All I can say again is that humans are involved in programming the AI to create the music. Artists shouldn't dismiss change out of hand. Some folk music fans were outraged when Bob Dylan plugged in at the Newport Folk Festival in 1965, but afterwards many people saw his decision as innovative and brave. I happen to think that Bob Dylan is, one of those artists that, some people like. But once again, you can't come up with another Bob Dylan through AI, and who cares about that guy? And going back to another experience that recently I watched a movie, it's called Floored, and it's a bunch of people who were pit traders in the Chicago Board of Trade, the CBOE, and they were in what's called open cry trading pits. So they would yell back and forth and trade options. Well, ultimately, what ended up happening is all the trading went to computers. Some of the guys adapted to it. A lot of them would not. They refused to adapt to computer trading, wouldn't learn it. And then ultimately, what ended up happening is a lot of them ended up having to either retire or quit or get into something else. And the same thing's happening here, where the music industry, and it's not just music, it's every industry. It's going to be law. It's going to be, services, financial services, journalism. Everything you can possibly imagine is going to be affected by this. And you could resist it all you want, but ultimately it's going to completely take over, and it's taking over rapidly. There will doubtless be creative ways of employing AI as a musical tool, and I'm eager to be part of a future in which the technology is put to good use. But right now, AI isn't creating fresh work, it's channeling the work of humans. Okay, it's channeling the work of humans. Humans are programming it and telling you what to sing, what instruments to use, cadence, things like that. Here's the funny part of this article. A group of more than 1,000 musicians, including Paul McCartney, huge surprise, of, in my opinion, the worst. This is one of the most manufactured bands ever in history. The Beatles, I cannot understand, and I'm sure a lot of people will be angry that I say this, but I cannot imagine being a fan of their music. And rumor has it that they were a manufactured band, of course, for various reasons. But it's Paul McCartney, of all people, is not a surprise. Contributed to an album due out on vinyl on December 8th titled, "Is This What We Want?" Yeah, it is. That's aimed at protesting AI music that doesn't properly compensate human artists. Why should AI music properly compensate human artists? If the people who created the AI music, they should be compensated, and that's their, that's their job to figure that out. But what, humans should just be outright compensated for AI music just for the sake of somebody creating AI music? That doesn't make sense. But it's not a surprise from somebody like Paul McCartney. If AI generated products are allowed to take over entertainment without guardrails and fair compensation to humans, lovers of music, movies, literature, and art will soon find themselves trapped in a ceaseless remix of the past. Once again, this is just a horrible cope. This is a kicking and screaming death spiral of many industries, including the music and Hollywood, and they're just not liking it. Artists and audiences and music industry executives need to pause and reflect on what role we want AI to play in this new era of creation. You're not going to control it. You're going to, AI is going to control it, and people using AI are going to control it. You're not going to be able to stop it. So this entire article is a bitch session of the inevitable. And once again, what it does is it levels the playing field, and people that are in power, when they see that the average person or somebody who is a talented artist never had the opportunity to become famous or get their work out there because of the gatekeepers in that industry, now they have a shot at it. And these people in the music industry are not happy about it. And so they want to stop it. And, because they see their incomes going away. They see their livelihoods going away. And it's a predictable human behavior, of course. So let me know what you think about that. Do you think that AI music taking over is a bad thing? Or do you think what I'm saying is that it's a good thing? It allows more people with creativity to get into the industry, that it's going to open up for different genres, different types of music, and that people are going to have more of a choice now because of AI. And it's only going to get better. The quality is going to get better. And sooner, and now you can't even tell the difference between a human and AI. So let me know what you have to say about that. And we will go into the next story here. Let's see where we are on time. And if you please would do for me is, if you're enjoying the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. And then also we have free AI packs. We are an AI channel, and we have a couple of free downloads. So when it comes to writing, and I've mentioned this a million times before, when it comes to these articles, a lot of these articles are obviously written by AI. The journalists are not using AI properly. It's okay to write articles and write papers and things with AI, of course. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that there are giveaways. There are things that show that it is written by AI and it's a lazy way of doing things. And we go into these AI products that humanize the AI writing to make it sound much more human, to take the M dashes, the long dashes that you see out, and smooth the writing out to make it seem a lot more human than it is AI. AI obviously will get better at that, but for now, the prompts and things that we have out there, we have for free. So go to DennisHendrickson.net to download those for free. We have some paid products as well that also supports the channel, and we appreciate you helping us out that way. Next story. Okay, in this story, it's this has to do with a common theme in the legal profession. And in this case, it's an Oregon lawyer who was slapped with a $2,000 fine for AI errors. And so the story goes, this is from the Oregonian. An Oregon attorney accused of relying on the totally plausible and often totally erroneous, and these are, once again, it's another product with M dashes in it, output of so-called artificial intelligence was slapped with a fine by the Oregon Court of Appeals on Wednesday. The appellate court determined that Portland civil attorney Gabriel Watson filed briefs citing two made-up cases and used a fabricated quote that was attributed to a real piece of case law. In the first, for Oregon, the courts of appeals ordered Watson to pay $2,000 to the state judicial department, charging him $500 for each baloney citation and $1,000 for the bogus quote. Although artificial intelligence programs may seem to offer a shortcut for a busy attorney in an individual case, at present, they may create a long cut to justice, Chief Judge Aaron Legason wrote, calling it a very grave situation. The errors were discovered by Watson's legal opponent, former state lawmaker and retired attorney Charles Ringo. Before I go on, there are a number of things that I've said in the past in other videos, but the thing that upsets me the most about this is you have so many things going on in the legal profession now, and in the justice system, period, with lawfare and the use of lawsuits, the use of prosecutions, and basically the use of the law in order to hurt a political opponent, to stymie a political opponent. And there hasn't been anyone so far that has been held accountable. Then you see this. You see how these people are now being punished and fined because they're using AI to research case law. And I guess what's irritating to me about this is the people who abuse the law, lawyers, prosecutors, etc., are not held accountable, but all of a sudden they're being held accountable here. Now, they should be held accountable, but they should be held accountable in other situations too. So for me, this is kind of evidence that we don't have a justice system in this country. And it's also very concerning that after all of this time utilizing AI, if you're an attorney and you're researching case law with AI and you don't know that this is an issue and you're not checking the case law that AI is researching, you could simply go back and ask it to, okay, reference where you pulled this information from, go to the official site, pull up the case law and make sure that the case law is correct. If you're not doing that, you know, that in and of itself is just just doesn't make sense to me. How you still have a law license. Ringo, representing himself, sued architectural engineer. So wait a minute. Okay, so this guy's a retired attorney that found this out. So he was defending himself. He sued an architectural designer, Jennifer Cohoon, in 2023, claiming her firm had created faulty plans for remodeling a duplex he owns in Bend. An arbitrator sided with Cohoon in January and ordered Ringo to pay $1,200 plus $15,000 in fees to Watson, her attorney. Ringo appealed the case, went haywire in May. Then, when Watson filed the Ringo appealed the case. Okay, so this is the problem with AI written articles. Ringo appealed, and the case went haywire in May when Watson filed the bunk-filled brief with the appellate court. I don't know what kind of sentence that is, but anyway, Ringo said he spent several hours chewing over Watson's document, eventually making a trip to the Bend Library to check legal databases, which is what the original attorney should have done, and confirm his suspicions that Watson's arguments were bolstered by fake decisions in prior cases that never happened. Quote, I had to consider whether maybe there was just an innocent mistake in terms of the name of the case or the case citation numbers, he said. You have to check all sorts of variations to make sure that no, this just doesn't exist. So this guy, who's a retired lawmaker and a retired lawyer, went to the library of all places, not even on the internet, went to the library to search his case law and found that the other attorney just pulled it out of nowhere from the AI. Watson, for his part, tried to explain the error by saying that his assistant had mistakenly filed a, quote, draft/placeholder brief. He later acknowledged and apologized for the apparently AI-generated errors, asking the court not to sanction him. So he lied, told them, okay, yeah, you're right, AI, I'm screwed up, AI did this, and then asked the court not to sanction him. Quote, as a solo practitioner with a heavy caseload and a desire to fight for justice for all clients, there is an inherent risk of becoming overwhelmed, he wrote in his defense. The temptation of relying on technology to support these well-intentioned goals is strong, but the court had none of it. It's amazing how the court actually stood up for justice this time. Lageson, the judge, said Watson hadn't provided a clear explanation of how the error occurred, and that each false brief created by AI cost the judicial system time and money, untangling the mix-up. Well, I don't think that's just the only thing. What if Ringo, the guy who felt that he had been wronged, what if he lost the case because nobody actually looked into it? It's one thing that the court or the judicial system itself loses time and money, but what about people who are harmed by others and are looking for compensation as a result of that? Legal precedent is the backbone of the law, Lageson said, but artificial intelligence is a machine built on the probable order of words, not the truth itself. AI mistakes are sometimes dubbed hallucinations, but Lageson rejected that term. Now, hallucinations happens to be the term used by many people in these legal issues. But I guess this particular judge thinks she knows better. Artificial intelligence is not perceiving non-existent law as a result of a disorder, she wrote. Rather, it is generating non-existent law in accordance with its design. I don't know how you could say that. I think what's happening is programming and things like that. I don't think anyone is specifically designing AI to hallucinate a case or case law. This is, again, the problem with the law, judges, prosecutors, the justice system as a whole, is that people like this just aren't qualified to be judges and lawyers. Watson didn't respond to requests for comment. Cohoon learned about the matter from a reporter and declined to comment. Oregon federal judges have encountered AI errors in at least 2 cases so far, the Oregonian previously reported. U.S. District Judge Michael Simon declined to impose sanction against attorneys for Green Building Initiative on November 12th, ruling that he was satisfied with the remedial actions already taken. So this has happened, definitely happened before in Oregon, and has happened in other cases where these so-called hallucinations have been used by lawyers using AI to cite case law. And I believe, although I'm not an attorney, that it's easy to remedy. Like I said before, if you're searching case law, this is meant to be a research tool, AI is. It's not meant to be a paralegal. And so it's easy enough to check what the AI pulls up, and people don't do that. They just blindly trust it. And that's the problem right now in a lot of industries, is that this stuff gets a lot of things wrong. And you have to double check it, especially if you're a lawyer. I mean, can you imagine if you're a doctor and you're just like, oh, here's a procedure, I'm just going to look it up and do it? It's crazy. And then having a lawyer, you're defending, if they're prosecuting someone, somebody's life is on the line, money is on the line, reputations are on the line. And this is the problem with AI. It's not the AI itself, it's the people using it. It's the laziness of the people that use it. So let me know what you think. Should there be more sanctions? Should people in these cases have more than just a fine? Should they have their license suspended? Should they have their license revoked? And what do you think about lawyers that do this kind of thing, that are too lazy to just, it's not a problem using AI, but not double checking it and checking the information that comes back from the from the AI itself? Let me know what you have to say in the comment section. So no comments so far, but quick little commercial. We have free AI downloads in our description. One will help you you're doing a research paper, if you're writing a blog post, if you're writing an email, it helps you humanize the AI. Because if you do just say, hey, I want you to write a letter, or I want you to write this or that through ChatGPT, it's not gonna write it in the proper way. You're going to need prompts in order to write it correctly, to basically make it sound as if you actually wrote it. And so AI is a very complicated tool. However, it's a very powerful tool, and it's not impossible to learn. However, some people need help. And so we've created AI downloads for free that you can go to our website. The link is in the description, DennisHendrickson.net, and you can download those and help you write better. All right, last story for the night. I'm going to make this one quick. In another lawyer related story, lawyer's 6-year-old son uses AI to build copyright infringement generator. This is from the Register, written by Brandon Vigliarolo. A lot of complicated words tonight. You don't have to be smarter than a 5th grader or even a 1st grader to commit potential copyright infringement using AI tools. One IP attorney watched over the weekend as his young son built a bedtime story generator that used copyrighted characters without permission. Quote, when experimenting with Google's AI Studio over the weekend, my 6-year-old son had the idea to create a website that would tell stories and generate pictures of the story. U.S. IP lawyer Jonathan Menkes, a partner at the Nobe Martin's law firm, explained in a blog post. In less than 2 minutes, he created a fully interactive website, including the proposed name, Bedtime Story Weaver. All it took to get Menkes the younger to create his tool was a few basic prompts that were so simple, even a 6-year-old with zero coding experience was able to create a web app asking users to provide a target age, theme, characters, an optional morale or lesson, learning objective, preferred story length, and tone to get an instant AI pen tale. First up, Menkes' son generated a story about a dragon and a knight, which came with an accompanying photo. So far, so good, Menkes explained, but my son's imagination did not stop there. Next, he prompted his vibe-coded story generator to give him a story about a video game character, Sonic the Hedgehog. I think a lot of people know that. Going on an adventure with Nintendo's mascot, Mario. A few more details added, and boom, Google AI Studio's custom website spit out a story about Sonic and Mario questing for coins. As an IP attorney, this was jaw-dropping, Menkes said. My sweet little son unwittingly created something that I spent over a decade of my life preventing others from doing. As IP practitioners, we need to understand how this technology works and anticipate problems and opportunities it affords. Menkes told the Register in an email. This is exactly what happened to me over the weekend when having a bonding moment with my son. So this is, once again, it's kind of like, look, humans are involved. Humans are using AI. Humans are doing things. They should know better. This guy was obviously watching his son do this. So for him, he could say, hey, look, this is wrong. You can't do this. You cannot use, Mario and Hedgehog or whatever, whatever companies, Nintendo and all that stuff. You just can't, copy that stuff. It's not right. But when you think about it, there are a lot of people that probably don't know any better and then just go out there and utilize those characters and create things. And that's where you get into trouble. And that's where I think AI is going to be a problem. However, you have that same problem with copying and pasting things that are on Google and other platforms that, are also an issue. It just comes down to morality. It comes down to, are you intelligent enough to understand that you can't do this stuff? A small kid, somebody who's a child, isn't going to know that, but their parents should be watching everything they do, like this particular father. But then you get into complications of IP when it comes to coding, when it comes to other intellectual property that may be in a gray area. And I'm going to do another video on that where there are what's called patent trolls. And I'm not saying that this particular attorney is a patent troll, but there are attorneys that are out there that will go around suing companies that are using technology that may have been designed by AI and unknowingly had already been patented, and they end up getting sued. So there's some weird kind of gray areas and things like that are going on. That is definitely a separate video to this. But moving on, while there are plenty of concerns to be had over how AI companies are using or misusing copyrighted content to train their models, Menkes posits his bedtime story incident as one that should alarm IP holders regardless of what AI companies are doing. Intellectual property holders should be prepared for a potential tsunami of software applications, as I was just talking about, and websites that push the boundaries of current IP law, he warned. At a minimum, the IP lawyer suggested IP holders need to review their existing methods of monitoring the web for copyright infringement to ensure all the potential misuse of their brands is being captured, as current methods are likely insufficient for the modern world of AI IP infringement. To illustrate that point, see our prior coverage of how natural prompts, e.g., video game plumber instead of Super Mario, will still return. So I guess this is interesting. And neutral prompt. So if you're using AI and you say a video game plumber, it's going to pull up Super Mario and still give you the Mario guy instead of just creating something on its own because it's pulling from the internet. Combating such deeply embedded IP infringement, Menkes said, is going to require copyright holders to take a more direct approach, perhaps AI, to search for that. So AI is going to be searching for other AI infringement. That's how this is going to go. Combating such deeply embedded IP infringement, Menkes said, is going to require copyright holders to take a more direct approach, which I just said. Brand owners should go further and have people within their organizations test each new AI tool on the market to determine whether it includes internal safeguards to prevent users from generating unauthorized content. Along with that approach, Menkes also recommends that IP holders have a triage plan in place to take quick action when any infringement is discovered. That said, in an era where it's easy to reproduce and manipulate copyrighted IP as typing a prompt into a text field, true, IP holders also need to recognize that it's not like the olden days of IP law. Quote, I think that IP owners and AI companies can find ways to work together so both can benefit from the tremendous opportunities this new technology provides. Companies that can stem the infringement while also creating opportunities for creative outlets will be the ultimate victors in this AI race, which is, I mean, it's good of him to say that. Most lawyers would just say, pay me. OpenAI has already paved the way for rights holders to monetize their IP on Sora. Sora is probably one of the more powerful ones right now that just you can't tell when you put something into it if it's real or not. It's crazy. Even with those sorts of arrangements, however, Menkes believes that IP law is going to have to significantly evolve in the coming years. What that may look like, though, isn't even clear to this IP expert. So yeah, so these things are going to evolve so rapidly, so quickly that even humans are just not going to be able to keep up. They're going to need AI to deal with the AI. So it's just one of those snowball effect things. But let me know what you have to say about that. What do you think is going to happen with IP infringement, both in, all, I guess, really all intellectual property, whether it be coding, whether it be, you know, art, photographs, people, all this stuff. Let me know what you think about what's going to happen in the future. Is it going to be? Do you think, hopefully AI will end up creating its own things. It'll become sophisticated enough where it won't just simply pull something from the internet and just reproduce it the same. The idea would be to create your own music, like the story I had done before. This is going to be in when it comes to all art, music, um, intellectual property in a way, I guess could be considered art. But it's going to be an interesting next many years and decades to see how this all plays out. But let me know what you have to say. I'm going to call it a night. It is 10:21. We are way over. I'm going to go over the DeSantis press conference tomorrow night and get into the AI where there are kids committing suicide because their parents are claiming, or they're claiming that the AI told them to do it. So I want to get into the laws and protections and things like that DeSantis is trying to pass in order to protect certain people from AI. So we'll get into that tomorrow. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And we will see you in the next live and next video.